ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and the state of emergency, on March 12th, Governor Baker issued an executive order temporarily suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Pursuant to that order, public bodies are temporarily relieved from the open meeting law's requirement that meetings must be held in public places open and physically accessible to the public, so long as the measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. We always accept questions through our school committee email, and our executive assistant is available to take questions. There's also a citizens comment period towards the end of the meeting, and that is a place where anybody is welcome to stay on and provide their input or questions that they would want answered at a different date. So thank you for being here, and with that, I will open the meeting by starting with the Walpole High School student report, and we have one of our loyal students, Scotty Cameron, with us tonight. So Scotty, the floor is yours. Oh, was I supposed to do the recognition first?
Nancy, you can do whatever you would like to do. If you'd like to do the recognition first, you can. If not, I'm sure the custodians may not mind to hear Scotty Cameron give his update of Walpole High School. So either or.
Go ahead, Scotty, you're up.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name is Scotty Cameron. I am a junior representing the students tonight. These past few weeks, Walpole High School has continued excellence in academics and through the many extracurricular activities. First off, students are thrilled that Fall 2 sports like cheerleading, football, and indoor track have started this Monday. I know many students, including myself, were doubtful that there would even be a Fall 2 season. However, thanks to the work done by the school sports directors and coaches, students are optimistic that the Fall 2 season will continue. Additionally, the math team is currently 7th overall in their Southeastern Massachusetts League following their win at yesterday's meet. Furthermore, most music classes were at the beginning of the year this year because of the half-year classes. To conquer this challenge, both the band and the chorus have started after-school music groups where they can continue to socially distance in the auditorium or play virtually. Ironically, both the band and the chorus teacher are new to Walpole High School this year, but they are doing a fabulous job engaging students despite not having these music classes this semester. Also, since it is Black History Month, it is very exciting to see the steps that Walpole High School has taken to educate our students about African American struggle for equality and how that pertains to current events today. Every morning, the morning news anchor educates the school on prominent African Americans in history. Also, the history department is offering some new courses specifically about African American history for next year. The English department has the AP Language and Composition course, where justice is one of the main topics of the class, and students learn the importance of justice in today's society. Furthermore, there is also the Students for Equality Club that has been having weekly conversations about justice, equity, inclusion, and diversity in our own school community and the broader national level of with the changing of the Rebel name and the new mascot to be selected in the near future, students are very excited to see the school educating students about Black history and its importance in today's society. Overall, the high school has been very focused on the new semester and excited for the many new opportunities that arise as we slowly make our way back to some type of normal. In closing, going into another semester of classes really makes us appreciate how many unique educational opportunities are available to students in and outside of school, which is why we are very thankful to have a diligent school administration and school committee that helps make this all possible. I would be happy to answer any questions at this time, but if not, thank you so much for your time tonight.
As usual, a very nice job, Scotty. Are there any questions or comments for Scotty?
No, Scotty, I just wanted to say I'm glad that you mentioned all the different activities that was brought up in our strategic plan too, as part of the report that of what has been accomplished in 1 year, and the importance of trying to keep as many activities available to our students, you know, elementary, middle, and high school. And it is nothing short of amazing as what the staff and community have been able to do and contribute, so that our students can be able to participate and be engaged as much as possible in a pandemic. So thank you for mentioning that.
Great.
Can I just say, I also appreciate his enthusiasm. Every time I see you speak, I think you have such a nice way about you, and you manage to be more and more positive the more you speak. So it's a great trait. So good job.
Well said, Jen. Yes. It's really meaningful that you're here, Scotty, so thank you. Okay, our next item is a recognition of all the work behind the scenes. We want you to know that our custodial staff is very much appreciated, and I'm going to turn it over to Mike Friscia to introduce this portion of our agenda.
So thank you to the school committee for taking the time to recognize these very dedicated individuals tonight. I know they're very appreciative of that. I just wanted to say a few words. I've always been very proud of the work that our custodians do and the high expectations that they have. Our buildings are well cared for, and the needs of everyone in our building is always the top priority. The custodians are the face of our buildings once the school day has ended, and every weekend. The service that our custodians provide to the community members and user groups is truly exceptional, as evidenced by the constant use of our buildings throughout the year. The pandemic has challenged everyone to adapt to a new reality, and the custodian's role has been critical in maintaining healthy and safe environments for all of our students. The custodians were the first staff back in our buildings after the pandemic began, and they continue to play a critical role in keeping our buildings safe and preparing for the return of all of our students. And I just wanted to say thank you to the custodians for being here this evening and participating in this recognition. We really appreciate seeing such a good turnout.
Nice job, Mike. And thank you to all of you who are here this evening. I wonder if any of you want to take this 15 seconds of fame we have a very wide viewing audience that we would love to hear about anything that you'd like to share. It's been a crazy and unusual year. So do any of you want to represent the group and share any thoughts?
Al Brown, this is your chance, man. You can set the record straight as to who your favorite principal of all time is.
I was going to put some people on the spot, but I don't think that feels appropriate. If I'm not mistaken, Neil McCormick is about to retire somewhere right around now. Is that correct? So let's roast. No, I'm just kidding.
Nancy, can I say something?
Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Julie Martin. I'm the director at the Daniel Feeney Preschool. So on behalf of myself and Carrie Ruggiero, who couldn't be here tonight, I want to thank Neil for his years of service at the Walpole Public Schools, and specifically here at Elm and Feeney, and all the work that he's done over the summer, as well as Annie and Mike, who work at both buildings, and not to mention on the weekends with the gyms and basketball and volleyball, and preparing our buildings and keeping everything just looking spotless and sanitized and clean. I can't imagine how you do it. We come in and the rugs are vacuumed, but I want to just congratulate Neil and thank him for his years of service, but really thank all of you for everything you've done, because like the rest of us, no one could have anticipated any of this and the impact that it would have on all of our positions, but yours, in particular, in addition to all the things that you do on a daily basis to also contend with, a pandemic and maintaining, building safety. So thank you very much for everything you all do.
Yeah, listen, on behalf of the administration of all the schools, as well as our parents, who I know are very thankful for all the work you guys put in every single day. You know, they're sending their babies to us at the schools, but they know that you're there and you're the reason why their kids are safe. So we really appreciate all of your efforts day in and day out, night in and night out too. So thank you guys.
I would just add, this has been a long year, and I don't think it really feels like it has any beginning, middle, or end, but we all collectively take such pride in the Walpole Public School system. But as Mike Fisher was saying, you guys are creating the first impression of how do you show pride in your schools, and the way you do your work is something extraordinary, and we just wanted to take the time to recognize that. It's the case in a regular year, but this was just asking you to dig deep into your resource energy, so we very much appreciate it. And with that, we usually tease the kids. I'll give you a second, Carrie. We usually tease the kids that if they're leaving from our meeting, it's because they have a lot of homework to do, because otherwise they would stay glued to the rest of our meeting. But I'm going to say that we know you guys are also often the first people in the buildings, so we're not going to take offense if you don't stay on for all the interesting items yet to come. But we have one more participant here. Carrie?
I'll be brief, but I just wanted to say that when our nursing staff was here and we talked to them, I mentioned how, excuse me, our nurses are people who have to absorb a lot of feelings from the people around them and answer a lot of questions and deal with a lot of anxiety sometimes from the people around them. And I think that's equally true of all of you, that I know you have other staff members asking you questions and, you know, asking you what you can, you know, if you can do this for them or that for them or run that errand. And did you remember this thing that I asked you for? And what about this question I have? And so I appreciate the fact that you can absorb all of that and work so well with the other people in your buildings that rely on you for so much. Because, you know, speaking for myself as somebody who works in a school, I think it's very easy to take what you do for granted. And so I just want to acknowledge that. And the other thing I want to say is that I know that that you all probably have students in your various buildings that you work in that you have relationships with too, that you get to know over the number of years that they're in your building. And I think that you don't get enough recognition for those moments when you're making connections with our students. It's not necessarily part of your job description, but I know that many of you do that anyway. And so I wanted to express my appreciation for that and just thank you for everything that you do.
Very nice.
I was wondering if I could say something. This is Joe. I'm the...
Absolutely, yes.
I just want to say that this is actually the first job I've ever had where I really enjoy coming to work and listening to everything that you guys have to say. I appreciate it. And I just want to say that what keeps me going is the phrase, we're all in this together. You know, so I hope I speak for everybody and say, you know, it feels good when, you know, the building feels clean and everyone's very appreciative. So, you know, I hope I can continue doing a good job for everybody, and I appreciate your time here. So I won't take too much up. So thank you.
You know what, Joe? That's a really good point, because it doesn't always happen that you have a job where you feel like you're part of a team, where you know, you get the support, you support others. That's a really good point to make. I think that it's somewhat intangible, but I think it's something that a lot of people work to make sure that we continue to have. You know, I think if you're part of the team, you're part of the team, and it's a forever kind of a thing. So thank you. Anybody else? Last chance, guys. Thank you for being here. And we will not take it personally if you get into your pajamas and get ready for tomorrow. Okay, our next item is an item of new business, and it is a partnership with Stonehill College. Dr. Goff?
Yes, Bill Hunn's going to take this, so I don't want to say anything because I don't want to steal his thunder.
There you go.
Great, thank you, Dr. Goff. So, as we included in the packet, the Stonehill Teacher Residency Program is a unique program which provides graduate teacher candidates an intensive field-based residency in a partner district alongside their graduate coursework. So, Dr. Goff and I, along with Mr. Fisher, are excited that we have committed to Stonehill College to be a partner district to accept at least one, potentially more residents next year from Stonehill College's graduate program. Most of the graduate students are pursuing a master's degree in inclusive education within the Massachusetts initial licensure process. They may expand it to some other options they've submitted to DESE and are awaiting approval of other licensure opportunities. One of the reasons we're excited about this is this program has a strong commitment to diversity, equity, inclusivity, and teacher preparation, which definitely reflects the needs and the core values and one of our strategic plan goals. And we've had an opportunity to meet with the director on several Zoom meets like this and some phone calls. And we are impressed with the work that she is doing at Stonehill, and we're excited by this partnership. One of the most exciting parts of this partnership is not only does it act as a potential pipeline of strong graduate students, but it also actually allows us to encourage current employees of the Walpole Public Schools, those that find themselves as potentially an ESP, a recess aide, someone who is a young professional with an undergraduate degree who likes working in our schools, an opportunity to pursue a graduate program while still remaining in our schools. So this is just something that Dr. Goff and I have been looking into for quite a while, trying to find universities to partner with. And as an alumni of Stonehill, I'm excited by this one. But this actually, even if I wasn't, was a great program that really met many of our needs. So we'll be starting very small and growing as it works for us and for our school system, and as long as the partnership is valued to both institutions. So we just thought this was important to share with school committee and something that is really positive news at this time. So thank you. I can answer, or Dr. Goff and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Are there thoughts or questions for Bill? Well, thank you for introducing it, and please just keep us informed as it goes along, but it's an exciting option, so great energy to find them and to secure the relationship. That's great.
Yeah, thanks, Bill, for your hard work on that. It's great. I appreciate it.
Okay, yesterday we had our yearly strategic planning day in Walpole, and Dr. Goff, you want to share some information about that, please?
Sure, I do have some information. So yesterday, as Nancy mentioned, was our strategic planning, our annual strategic planning. It was quite different. As you know, it was virtual, and we had to make sure that it was engaging, have some time limits, be able to be comprehensive while concise and thorough, and making sure that we're able to continue to move our district forward. There are many different stakeholders. We had a lot of staff members, we had community members, town officials, we had some school committee members. So what we did is we started off, and I just want to thank Bill. He was my co-host for the morning and a little bit of the afternoon. And what we did is we started by giving a status report. So the chairs of each of the goals, which was goal 1 was curriculum instruction and assessment, goal 2 focused on social emotional learning, goal 3 focused on citizenship, and goal 4 focused on facilities. So what they did is they gave an update and a status report. And it was, like I mentioned, it was quite comprehensive, but I have to say, we had this strategic planning meeting last year at this time. I think it was actually before February vacation, and then COVID hit and we had to close our buildings in mid-March. And I was so impressed at all that we've been able to accomplish in that year. And I know at the end of this school committee that there have any comments for that, please don't hesitate to do so. But it was nothing short of amazing. So what we did after that is Bill and I talked about how we were going to strategize the next part and the focus part of the meeting. And that was really the how and the why. So the why was actually first of our goals, because the goals were changing and we needed to explain why we were changing the goals. And then Bill explained how we were going to do that. So I just want to talk about that a little bit, because I think it's important to note how that ties in, the strategic plan ties into the entry plan that I did, the entry findings, and how that also ties in with some of our other plans in our respective schools. Because in the past, when you typically have a strategic plan, you keep the same goal for 5 years, because we know that it takes that time, right, for real change to happen. So we talked about why we were making the change to a couple of goals now. And, as you know, although I've worked in Walpole for many years, the entry plan that I did last year really afforded me the opportunity to take a fresh look at the district through a different lens. And it allowed me to collect a lot of data, both quantitative and qualitative data, analyzing documents, and conducting a variety of interviews with all different stakeholders, from the community to parent groups to leaders, small group, and then also attending many community events and participating in many meetings. So as a result of that, I was able to organize the findings in these 3 prevailing themes, and it was one of them was opportunity to learn, meeting the needs of all students, teaching and learning in the 21st century, and district culture. So these themes that emerged from this process and this entry plan, really what it needs to do is lead to a strategy for continued growth. And that's where it ties into the school improvement plan. The school improvement plan is the foundation which drives the specific work at the district and at the school levels. It's what our leadership goals are tied to. It's what our school improvement plan goals are tied to. The school improvement plan goals may look a little bit different in some of their objectives based on the needs of that actual building, but it should always tie into those goals of the district strategic plan. So I just want to go through these 3 themes and talk about my findings for the opportunities of inquiry and how they tie in to the goals. But I want to just also highlight a couple of the strengths. So the first theme with opportunity to learn, one of the findings is that there was widespread agreement and that Walpole Public Schools is a high-performing district with an eye on student learning. Numerous parents especially expressed that they moved to Walpole because of the school system, and there was dedicated staff that strive to individualize instruction to meet the needs of all of our learners, and really work to provide a safe and nurturing environment. The extracurricular program was touted, along with the district being recognized for committing resources for social emotional learning. Our in-district special education program was touted as a strength, and also the district's commitment to free full-day kindergarten. But there's also opportunities for inquiry in this area. We talked about, and I noted achievement gaps, that there's still room for improvement. There are some disparities among subgroups. And benchmarking measures, we need to continue to ensure consistency across the grades and track measures of growth, be able to analyze data, and provide some effective intervention and drive instruction. And that really ties into our goal 1 of curriculum and assessment, instruction and assessment. Another is the integration of social emotional learning practices. So although much has been accomplished in supporting our SEL practices and in the classroom, it's important that Walpole Public Schools continue to integrate the social and emotional practices and competencies into all aspects of the school environment. As we know, we see increase in students who struggle with mental health challenges, and it's really an opportunity for us to build on fair and equitable practices and really strengthen our family and community partnerships and focus on SEL practices. So that's reflected in goal 2 of our social emotional learning. Theme 2, teaching and learning for students in the 21st century. Professional development was a big strength among staff who really felt that the district supported them. and being able to learn the tools, the skills, and the knowledge to continue to move this district forward. What was touted was the high school program of studies, the diverse offerings, and then also our investment to build the music program. Digital learning was also noted as a strength, the resources that we've been able to attain, and also our digital learning coaches that model and co-teach the integration of our tools and resources. And finally, instructional support. A strength was that the district has created several support structures to really ensure that students have the competencies. For just a couple of examples, our elementary literacy coordinator and our commitment to a balanced literacy program, and also math coaches at the elementary and middle levels. In terms of opportunities, the district has made progress in curriculum alignment to assure consistency for all learners across the grade level, but we know there's a need to expand these opportunities for continued analysis of our instructional practices, that assessments are utilized, and methods of tracking student development in order to continue the focus on curriculum consistency, to making sure that students learn authentically, and really we invest in building capacity. And we also explore structures for that vertical alignment in curriculum instruction, hence looking at Goal 1. We talked last year about initiative overloads, or what I like to call the proliferation of initiatives. And we talked last year about examining the programs currently in place to make sure we're identifying professional development support structures so we can continue to have sustainability and commitment, because that's really where you see the growth. If we can create programs that are sustainable and that we're committed to driving it forward. So what we did last year and what we continue to do this year in our strategic plan is you focus on a small number of ambitious goals. So you have your 5-year plan, but you really prioritize a smaller group of goals that really focus on teaching and learning for the district. And that's what results in continuous improvement and that sustainability. And then finally, facilities. Many have expressed the need for improved building facilities, specifically the middle school and high school. We all know that we have an important and exciting opportunity before us to address the needs of our middle school, and we are smack dab in the middle of it and have been spending several years on the middle school building project, and we will continue to do so. And we'll be talking about that a little bit more this evening. Theme 3, the final theme, was district culture. There's a strong sense of pride that exists in Walpole. And some of the quotes from some community members stated that schools are inclusive and part of the community. Some parents commented that the district does a good job in positive outreach and that the school doors are open. Maybe not this year, but next year they will be. There are opportunities for involvement and collaboration, and there's also some strong community partnerships, most notably the Walpole Police Department, the Fire Department, and the Council on Aging. But that was also an opportunity for inquiry, that although we do have strong partnerships that exist, there is an opportunity to explore ways to partner with Walpole businesses and groups that are not closely connected to our schools. That also ties in with our citizenship and also is a correlation to social emotional learning. And then finally, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Our community and our schools are experiencing an increase in diversity, and throughout the years, our staff have participated in courses such as Understanding Identities. We've collaborated with Kathy Lopes, a former director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at MECO. There's been middle school leadership participation and also various high school clubs. You heard tonight from Scotty about the high school, some of the high school groups, and also some of the literature that allows people to see differing perspectives. But it's important that we don't let up. It's important that both our students and families continue to feel welcome in our schools, and there's an opportunity to explore professional development and cultural awareness and culturally responsive teaching. As leaders, we must provide our teachers with methods for shaping instruction that values, appreciates, affirms, and builds on diversity and inclusion. So therefore, when you look at this, Goal 1 remains, and that group worked on the curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And goal 4 remained in terms of the facilities component. And based on that, we took goals 2 and 3 because we saw a lot of overlap. And we took the social emotional learning and citizenship and made that one goal. And that goal is to foster and strengthen the social emotional well-being of the school community in order to develop responsible and engaged citizens. So I thought it was a nice combination between the two. And then the other goal, it's really goal 3, but I'm mentioning it as 4th goal in succession, is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's going to, some of the objectives or action steps are focused leadership, culture and community, and instruction. So that's our direction that we need to go. And I'm really, like I said before, impressed at what we've accomplished. I'm amazed at what we're currently doing under COVID conditions, and I'm really excited to continue our work together. So where does that leave us? What we will do is, again, we only had a half day, so the chairs are still working on it with their subgroups. They bring that to our leadership council. So in our leadership council, we will vet it, discuss it, and then when we'll share it back out with the strategic planning members. And then when all is said and done, we will then bring it to school committee and share the results with you. So there's still like a little bit of a vetting process to go before we bring it to you.
Thank you, Bridget. Are there questions or comments for Dr. Goff? Carrie, then Jen.
I just want to say I was telling Nancy yesterday that Strategic Plan Day is one of my favorite days. As a school committee member, I just really enjoy the opportunity to interact with so many of our staff that normally we don't get to talk to or hear from, that much in depth. I always feel energized, and I always feel really proud of our schools after the meeting, and yesterday in particular, because I was part of the group that was working on developing a brand new goal in an area that can be sensitive and can be difficult to talk about, and I was just really blown away by the way the group came together. Many people in the group had never had the chance to interact or speak to each other before. Certainly it was a wide cross section of people and not full of people that work with each other every day. And the level of dialogue, the respect I saw among the group. And
I think you're totally frozen now.
Uh-oh.
Is everybody frozen?
No, I can hear her.
No, I can see.
I can hear her.
Can you hear me, Jen?
Yes, yeah. I can.
Oh, maybe it's me. I guess it's me. Sorry. Did everybody else hear Carrie?
Yeah, so I'll wrap up. I'll just say, it wasn't only that it felt good, we actually landed somewhere, to me, it felt remarkable, the place that we landed after, 4 hours of work. It was really remarkable. So I just wanted to share that was my experience, and I'm looking forward to the continuation of the process.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, when Bill and I were planning the day, we knew to have this for an entire day over, virtual on Zoom would have been very difficult, and we had to be strategic, no pun intended, but it had to, in order to make sure that we were engaged and we could keep people focused, but at the same time be able to get a lot done in 4 hours.
Jen, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm if we couldn't make it for the first session, some of us had work constraints. Is it okay if we join for the second session?
Sure. If you let me know, Jen, or if other people let me know that or Mary, what goal they want it to be on, then the chair can reach out to you.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, good point. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on something you said at the very beginning, Dr. Goff, about how in the midst of, this really tumultuous and much different year, looking through everything that was checked off yesterday during the planning process that had been accomplished, that would have been a tough lift in any normal educational year. Your leadership, Mr. Hahn's leadership, and then how that seeps into the schools through the rest of the leadership council, really says a lot about the character, the perseverance, and just the quality of everybody involved. So thank you for leading such a great group and inspiring them and continuing to work hard when it would have been just easy to stop. So thank you.
Thank you. Definitely a team effort, and I always joke with Bill and say it's a type A personality.
I would just add a couple of comments. I think that it's wonderful to see the staff members that you don't know too well and to get to know them a little bit better through this process. One of the things that I noticed was just how everyone is treated as an equal. Everyone's opinion is really encouraged, and people's listening skills are really strong. So, I think that's just a real credit to the staff. I also think that something I hadn't really noticed as much, and maybe it's because of COVID, but the fact that you are all teachers at the center of who you are came through to me yesterday. And it's the little things. It's that your pace was good. The fact that and I know she's a tough woman to deal with some days on this, Bill Hahn, but you guys stayed on time. You stayed to the schedule, and it gave people a chance to listen carefully and then take a few minutes to let the thoughts sink in. I think I might have made the mistake of saying, well, we have 15 more minutes, we could fill it with this. And that was the true teacher in you. And I think it came through that this district is good and strong in that way. So it was a good experience. And I think that the people that were there felt the same way. I did have one question. I'm trying to understand how it all fits together. And I understand now better the strategic plan and your entry plan. And if you had your way, would the buildings be finalizing their strategic plan? Their school improvement plans soon after strategic planning, so that would be so that they would actually fit together in the way that you would want them to? Like, what would be the ideal timing, I guess, is my question.
Well, I saw you turn your mute off. Did you want to talk?
I don't want to step over
No, go ahead. I can follow up.
It's a good question. I think Dr. Goff and I struggle with the timing of strategic plan because it's kind of how it exists in the middle of the year. But one of the catalysts for that is because school councils are really supposed to be in the schools, the working mechanism to create school improvement plans. So the advantage to doing strategic plan at the end of February into March is that it can be finalized by you get to April. By the time you get to April, your school council should start to be better defining these school improvement plans that you essentially want done around May. And then they are ultimately reviewed at the district level and during our leadership retreat, and then we create leadership goals, and then Dr. Goff and I create our own personal goals. So that's the one tough time about it, is the timing, because it is difficult to measure these goals in late February. It is difficult to implement or to start, not to implement, but to start writing, and some to be implemented before the end of the year. But the catalyst and the mechanism for that is the school improvement plans, which are done by school councils, really should be finished up around May, and that's when those meetings are starting to come to their final kind of conclusion. So I hope that helps answer your question, but that's the reason for the timing.
Okay, no, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Good. Any other questions or comments? Yes, Kristen.
I'll just add. Having been part of the strategic planning meeting for many years, I am really amazed at what we accomplished yesterday. I mean, you know, I know every 5 years is sort of the 2-day session. In most other years, it's just a day. And I've been parts of all of it. And some days seem like they'll never end. And there's a lot of chatter, but it was well run, right? We didn't feel rushed. I was in the goal 2, maybe it was goal 3, now goal 2, but in the combined goal. And I think we really had enough time somehow to talk through what those goals were, how we would combine them. And I know even last year, we did feel like there was a lot of overlap. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And not being a teacher and really paying attention to how social emotional is implemented, you know, I didn't really understand sort of to me, social emotional is sort of inward and citizenship is outward. And there's a lot of discussion about how those two things really are part of the same story, and how, you know, the way you read the goal, that there is, once you know more about yourself and you're a better engaged person, then you can share more externally and be a better citizen. So I think the goal came together really well. But I was really impressed with how it was executed. Having been part of this for many years, I think it was well done, and it didn't feel like a crazy compressed time. I think it was a good pace, and we did get something accomplished and set really good goals for the future, even for finishing the plans in the future. So thank you again.
Thanks, Kristen. And you know, it's also a testament to the chairs. They were very well prepared. I mean, they prepared for this a lot prior. You know, they all knew that they were going to have the speech. We call it, you know, when they were doing their status reports, Bill and I call it's an elevator speech. Yeah. So they knew it was like how to be thorough but concise. So it was, and they had their plan in place going forward when they were able to switch into the different chairs, into their different goals. So attribute that to them.
Nice job.
Great. Well, thank you. And that would get us to the next item, which is the FY22 budget development. And one of the reasons we're talking about this tonight is because we will be presenting to the Finance Committee next week. Dr. Goff or Mr. Prisha? I don't know who wants to start.
That would be me.
Okay.
I'm just gonna move you over to the side. Sometimes I have to move. Sometimes you might have to move the images of you all back and forth, so you might be able to see numbers.
Okay.
But, you know, I'll get started. So just to let you know that Monday night we'll be presenting to the Finance Committee our budget. You know, this is not the proposed budget for you because school committee voted on this budget already. But it's also just to let you know, to give you another overview, to give you some of the information that we'll be presenting to Finance Committee, and then also get your feedback after the presentation and answer any questions that you may have. So the budget that if you recall that we presented to you really takes our students beyond what's been accomplished during the most challenging time of COVID education. And you can see these pictures are very different from maybe the photos that you saw last year at this time. We're tremendously proud of the work that was and is necessary to support both our in-person and our remote student learning, while at the same time managing protocols and contact tracing to mitigate risks and maximize the safety of students and our staff. Despite the many challenges, with the exception of preschool way back in early September, all of our buildings have remained open since September 14th. And we've been able to bring back, we started with K, and we're able to bring back 1 and 2 to 4 days a week, as well as many, many other students across our district. But before we address the FY22 budget, Mike and I just want to start back a year ago, because it's really important to see where we were at this time last year in order to be able to see where we are currently and where we need to go moving forward. Last year, we discussed the changing demographics of Walpole students and the staff that we need necessary to fully support their learning. We did this without positions this year because of the budget, which you'll see. And this year, it's even more, these positions are more essential as we plan for next year, and we continue to do so in the future. So if you take a look at this slide, and I have to move it around a little bit. At this time last year, when we presented our needs, town administrators recommended Walpole Public School budget is right there. It's $47,901,167. And then post-COVID related adjustments, the town's administrator new recommendation and the town meeting approved the WPS budget as $46,858,876. We're going to get into more depth with this. This is just an overview. Just know that if you look at from the 47 to the 46, that's approximately a $1.4 million reduction. Finally, the school department applied an additional $736,000 from FY20 savings to the FY21 budget for a total of $46,594,876. This avoided layoffs and related consequences of approximately 16 critically needed Walpole Public School staff members. But it's important to remember, however, this was accomplished with one-time money, which now affects our FY22 budget. So the next two slides will be a deeper dive into the FY21 and FY22 budgets. It should be noted that after the budgets were set in FY21, revenue significantly exceeded our budgeted amount. And although Walpole Public Schools did not seek to access any additional revenue mid-year, we operated on the base of $47,594,876 for FY21. So we'll dig a little deeper here. I need to move you all to the side so I can see. So I know I usually move teacher and me left to right, but I just want to start on the right for a second to remind you that that was school committee's priorities last year, that $520,000. Those were positions that we determined would best meet the most of our needs for our changing population. Okay, so it's most urgent changing needs of our student population, that column on the right, and it totaled $520,000. The left-hand column represents the school committee FY21 budget request. Okay, so if you look at that, the FY21 budget was $46,092,835. The total budget increase was $2.2 million approximately. And the FY21 budget $48,302,835, which represents an increase of 4.8%. And that was voted on by the school committee, I believe it was January 31st, 2020. The town administrator came in with a 3.92% increase on February 27th, and that left a gap of $401,668. So if you look on the right, if you needed $520,000 worth of positions and our gap is 401, we were still in a position where we were able to get some of those positions. Well, that was on February 27th. And then a few weeks later, COVID really hit. And after that, once COVID hit, the town administrator needed to change our FY21 budget to not a 3.92% increase, but a 1.7% increase, and that was in May. So what that did, that gave us a total of $46,858,876. So that not only wiped out all our positions of $520,000, but it left us with the deficit. So even though the increase was $766, it still left us with a deficit, which I want to show you on this next screen, what that means. So again, you can see the FY21 budget, the town administrator's budget that came in May, and that left us with a $1.4 million deficit. And what we had to do is it wiped out our positions, and then it still, after wiping out our positions, left us with a deficit of $923,959. So Mike's going to dig even deeper to explain how the district was able to cover this shortfall to level fund.
Sorry, I've gone through the spreadsheet with you guys before, so I'm not going to walk through it at the level of detail, but I do want to just walk through it briefly, and I want to mention a couple of things about each fiscal year that I think are important to remember. Starting with, you'll recognize the number at the top, 46,092,835 was on the prior slide that Bridget was using, and there's Jim Johnson's 766,000 that he eventually, in May, determined with a 10% cut to local aid, that's what the town could afford versus what we really needed. And that left us with the 46,858,876. So before I move to 21 and talk about the mandates we had, I just want to talk about 20 for a moment, because sometimes we forget about what really happened in FY20 when we ended on March 13th and things really went badly for us. And one of the things, I just have a couple of bullets that I want to read. In FY20, DESE strongly encouraged all school districts to continue paying vendors such as special education private schools, PT, OT service providers, yellow bus vendors, and some of the contracts we were able to reduce, and we were able to offset and reduce them down, creating some savings that we carried forward. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But I just want everyone to realize that even though services weren't being provided, we were still mandated to make those payments and obligated to, and in all cases we did with some negotiating involved. One of the other things I want to mention, because it was one of the more dramatic impacts of FY20, was the school department had to furlough 116 staff members in order to get through to the end of FY20. If we hadn't done that, we would have been left with dramatic deficits in all of our revolving accounts. And that was a really hard decision for everyone to make. So I know we look at numbers on a spreadsheet, but there are lives behind that were impacted very heavily. In the end, it was the right decision because people wind up being furloughed. They were able to collect an extra $600, if everyone remembers that, and actually wound up better off fiscally in that situation. So just some important points from FY20 that I wanted to remind everyone of. So as we move down the spreadsheet, you see the mandates that I've talked about in the past that were budget drivers for us. And that was the Medicaid cut to the funding, which was the $315,000, the unbudgeted positions that we added in FY20 that weren't in the budget, that's $253, special education tuition that went up that we didn't have built into our budget was $221,000. That added up to $790,000, just that alone. Then when you add in the contractual obligations, that's another $900,000. So where Jim gave us $766,000 as a town administrator, we were appreciative that he at least committed when a lot of town administrators would not commit at that point. They were looking at going to a 1/12 budget, which meant I'm not going to commit. We'll just deal with this at a one, each month as it comes up. But what it did was it left us with that $923,959 deficit, and that's what Bridget ended her prior slide with. So the question becomes, how did we cover that? We talked about, last time I presented with this, we talked about one-time budget offsets. So in FY20, although it was a very hard year for us, we were able to, knowing and looking ahead that brief period of time before the end of the year, to set aside money wherever we could. Some of it was in the personnel budget, that's $285,000. Some of it was in goods and services, savings from bus contracts, renegotiating, freezing all our principals' goods and service budgets in our central office. We had some grant funding of the $100,000. All that added up to $736,959, and that's the $736 that we continue to mention. In addition to that's all one-time money. We were able to solve some of our problem permanently, and that's the other $187,000 that you see on this slide. On the left side, I'm not going to go through each one specifically, but you'll see the difference between one-time money, which we need back from the town, versus recurring solutions that we don't need back. So when we talk about the FY22 budget, somebody might ask, why is it only 736 if you had a $923,000 deficit? Because some of our solutions were recurring and have been taken care of. I wanted to just mention a few things in FY21 that are important. The school department and school committee worked closely with the town administrator to develop a revised FY20 budget in lieu of the 1/12 budget. A 1/12 budget is a really tough thing to manage. It does not work effectively. It's not a good funding tool, and I wholeheartedly believe we made the right decision there. So kudos to you guys for supporting that. In order to ensure the Walpole could meet its FY21 budgetary commitments, state aid projections were cut by 10%, creating that gap of really 923, but we made it 736. In May by the town administrator, the school committee voted a budget of 46,858,876, which reflected a budget reduced by the projected cut in state aid. The school department was only able to avoid the layoffs of approximately 16 staff members by carrying forward money we had saved in FY20. In late fall of FY21, the final budget picture improved. This is a key part of this, why we're in this position. And state local aid was level funded. In some cases, school committees work with town administrators to appropriate the additional funding to the school department for FY21 to cover the actual staffing expenses and to bring in line the percent increase for FY21. So Bridget went over what the additional 736 is costing us. I'm going to show you on the next slide. That really isn't all about FY22. And for somebody to say to us, why is your increase so high? Well, our increase is so high because a large part of it, or a part of it, is from FY21, all right, the carryover. And I think that's just an important distinction to make. So Bridget, if we could go over to okay, so here's FY22. So there's our base budget on the top. There's our one-time money, the 736. And I wrote a quick note. If we took that 736 out, our increase of 5.3 would really just be 3.8. So it's a 1.5% bump up just because of that carryover. So reduce that budget to 3.8 increase, and you'll see that it's not really a big increase. It's really in line with what we normally do. So our adjusted budget's at 47,594,876. Add in the collective bargaining of 1,456,000. That's a pretty traditional amount there, offset by the goods and services, hard work done by our special ed department solely to get that number down to 223,936. Also fortunate with the tuition, special ed tuitions that came down. There's our needed positions. The need for those positions did not go away. It's still there, and you'll see that number is pretty close to what it was last year. So we're only looking for what we were hoping for last year. That gives us a needs-based budget increase of $2,498,064. That puts our overall FY22 budget at $49,356,940, 5.3% increase. The town administrator at this point is at 4.6%, which is $49,034,884. And we have a deficit. We have a gap. I shouldn't call it a deficit. We have a gap at this point. And that's $322,056. We will work like we do every year to close that gap. That's not a gap I'd look at and say it's going to be an overwhelming challenge that we wouldn't be able to handle. There are things we look for, such as attrition and other things that may help our budget. But we're looking for recurring money is the theme here. We don't solve problems with one-time money, and I don't want to be accused of that last year like we did with the one-time money. The only thing I would mention, just a couple of things about FY22. The Walpole School Committee has agreed to work with Jim to appropriate the increased recurring revenue in FY22 for the staff that were not furloughed in FY21. This funding plan will maintain a very low increase for FY21, but will exaggerate the increase in FY22 due to the delay in the increase. The FY21 gap will continue to be covered by one-time funding, and additional COVID-related expenses are being covered by COVID relief funding, of which the majority was covered by the federal government. I'm going to talk about COVID funding after this, but just some points that I wanted to make sure we mention.
So if you look at where the needed positions are, the 530,000, and I know we've discussed this, but I want to just briefly go over it again. We have the ESOL, it's an English as a second language teacher, district level. What that does, that provides equity across the district, because currently we do not have a full-time ESOL teacher at each building. So that would allow the districts, the schools to be equitable across the district. I'm just going to go down to continue with the ESP ESOL teacher at the high school. The number of students in the ESOL program at the high school has risen, and we're still tracking them. It's not only 29 are students, but we also have 18 what's known as the FEL category. That's former English language learner, and those students still need the support and need to be tracked. Walpole High School currently has a ESOL teacher, but the plan here with the numbers is to increase our ESOL classes to 3, just like the plan was last year, so we could have 1 at each level. So this support professional will assist in the classroom, will allow the ESOL teacher to provide some direct support in the regular education classrooms, and be able to push into our regular classrooms to provide that additional support, and then also assist students and families with post-graduation assistance. The health and wellness is focused at the high school, so that all students would be able to take in some way, shape, or form health or wellness classes throughout their 4 years at Walpole High School. And that ties directly to our strategic plan as well. The 2.0 elementary counselors, that would allow the elementary schools to have 2 full-time counselors at each building. Right now they have 1.5 per building. They share one that moves back and forth. And we know that, I just wanted to read again a quote from a counselor in another district, in another state, about the importance of counselors. Because when you invest in school counselors, you're not just investing in students' academic achievement, mental health, and college and career readiness. And it's an investment in the entire school, in families, and in whole communities. Since increasing this particular district's counseling staff, the district saw an increase in attendance and a decrease in suspension rate. Counselors have time to visit classrooms and tend to all students, not just those undergoing a crisis. Counselors identify students with specific problems, offer short-term assistance, work with teachers and students' families, and then assist with doctors, psychologists, and therapists who can address issues. That's on top of their regular duties, which include academic advising, educating school and staff students about bullying, vaping, social media, monitoring the overall school climate, and addressing discipline issues among handling other crises. The 1.0 middle school special education chair, that is the middle school chair that we currently have, consistently has the highest caseload in the district, oftentimes by a wide margin. Given this, the chair is involved in many student transitions. With the exception of preschool, this one person is involved with every building in the district. A building-based team chair at the middle school, having one at each middle school, will allow for a wider range of tasks, most importantly, being a resource for our general ed and special education and for interventions. It also allows coaching and also function as a liaison for outside agencies. Transition coach at the high school is very similar to middle school is very similar to the high school transition coach. That coach would work with students during returning from long or short-term absences, regardless of the program, due to any physical, emotional, or medical reasons. The transition coach would also assist students and their families with the process of re-entry and engagement within the school community by offering academic support and overseeing tutoring services, and facilitating counseling. So this position would provide support both at Byrne Middle School and Johnson Middle School. The .4 computer science teacher would be at the high school. We currently have a .6 FTE in the tech department, but this would increase to 1.0. So what does that do? That allows us to offer more courses or add additional sections. As you know, personal finance is a very popular course, and adding this position would enable us to offer more personal finance classes. And then finally, the full K reduction of 100,000. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mike Frischer, with my math, but that would reduce the tuition from 1,800 to 1,350.
Correct.
Right. So those are the positions. So what this does, our budget request really extends our investment in education by a few ways. It builds on the strong Walpole Public School foundation. We're ensuring a comprehensive curriculum. We're investing, as we do, as you notice in the entry plan, that we have a strong professional development and training. And finally, that we continue to provide equitable support services and resources for all children to achieve. And that means closing achievement gaps, continuing our improvement with social, emotional well-being and learning, and then of course, working with diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Mike's going to take you now. We've got a couple more things to talk about. Mike, you want to take through the in their budget books?
So Mark Halfrey sent you guys an FTE report, which we're calling the personnel report, and that's what we share with the finance committee when we talk about personnel. Everyone know what I'm talking about? Okay, because it would be really hard to go through it without you having it in front of you. So on the left side of the report are the position titles of the individuals. Obviously, it goes administrative, regular school staff, support staff, and then other staff or costs groupings associated. First column is FY21. This report is good because it lists not only the salary, but the total FTE counts in that category, okay? And then FY22, next to that, so you can see obviously the variance in salary, but also the variance in FTEs. So, and then the percent change, obviously, on the right side as well. Generally, what I do when I talk about this report is I go down, first of all, I'll just open it up to the finance committee to answer any questions that they have. I could do the same with you guys. I have a little cheat sheet with me that has a line item for each one of those changes where I can elaborate on any of those changes. But let me just start with what would probably jump out to you guys looking at this report, and that is the school nutrition director and the extended day director. So if this report is only operating budget, that doesn't include any revolving accounts, why would that number go up? Why are we increasing our operating budget by one FTE on the nutrition director and one on the extended day director? So let me answer that for you. The reason that we're adding those two individuals into the operating budget is that there is a high level of uncertainty around food service and around extended day. The extended day program has taken a hit, about 75 to 80% reduction in revenue. We've had to lay off staff in that program. It is a shell of what it once was, and we are hopeful it will come back next year, but I'm not going to build a budget responsibly based on what I'm hoping. So I put them back in the operating budget. Their salaries are accounted for. If, as we go through the year, those accounts recoup their funding and get back on their feet and they're able to offset those salaries, then we can move those salaries back into the revolving accounts. But for now, it would be, I would argue, irresponsible at this point to count on that funding that's just not there right now. There is another example further down. The school nutrition operations facilitator is also, that's line 29. That individual is the same situation, okay? So when you look at the variances, you're going to see 7.4 are the new positions that we talked about, right? If Bridget went back to her list and we looked at that list, you'd see about 7.5 worth of positions It's 0.4 because remember the computer programming position was 0.4. The other 7 are existing positions that are reallocated from revolving accounts back in or for other smaller reasons. But outside of that rationale, there's nothing really earth-shattering about this report, other than if somebody just looked and said, why'd you go up by 14 FTEs? Well, we would have an explanation of why. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about this report in particular.
I'm not technically able to see everybody. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but so just jump in if you have a question, please.
Mike, I don't see any. You want to go to the?
Yep. So we'll go to the, okay, the next one is the comprehensive budget. It is, it says FY22 draft in the top left corner. This is one of the ones that Mark Halfrey sent to you as well. Okay, so let's talk about this report for a minute. We've used this for the past 10 years plus as a tool to guide people through our budget. It's in categories that I'll go down the list with. A is our local appropriation, so what we get from the town as our appropriated budget. B is our reimbursement, so things that we spend and allocate money towards and then are reimbursed for. C are offsets, where we're getting tuition, collecting revenue from accounts like food service or extended day or athletics. And then D are grants, which are a large portion of our budget and important to review. So if you look at the top portion, A, all of that is going to coincide. The numbers should be exactly the same as what Bridget and I just went through in the PowerPoint presentation. So you'll see the personnel number, 41,140,098. There's our one-time funds at 736. There's the 530 of new additional positions. And that gives us an adjusted personnel number of 42,406,098. Then we have to add in our revised goods and service, and you'll see it dropped from last year of 6,958,42. And that gives us that 49,356,940 increase in our budget, the 5.3 that I talked about at length. I'm really just rehashing. We've really done a lot of work this year to guide you guys through this that we don't generally do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions. You can see on the right side, those are your net differences. We had an issue one year with FinCom. They thought we were trying to mislead them. So we've got a percentage change in that line item. And then we've got a percent, actually it's percent of the total and then a percent of the actual line to avoid any confusion or questions about that. Okay. Going down the list, not a lot to highlight, to be honest with you. Circuit breaker is, at $1.7 million, it's pretty much level funded, a slight decrease. Our Medicaid reimbursement, we're anticipating that's going to drop. We solved that problem last year, but we're having some drop off this year in that funding. It's reduced by 34,000 plus. So we're losing a bit of money in the reimbursement area, about 45,353. Going down the fees and tuitions, I'll just pick the ones to highlight. Transportation. So what we budgeted in FY20 was 360,000. What I budgeted in FY21 was 380,000. You can see what we collected, right? 59,827 at this point. That is one giant hole deficit that needs to be covered this year. When anyone talks about surplus that we might have from that COVID funding that's coming in, well, that's part of where it's going. So we are allocating, we are keeping track of this as closely as possible, which it continues to evolve. I'm projecting for next year 325,000. If you ask me honestly how did I come up with that, I'd say I'm not going to project 380. I'm not even going to project 360. I don't know what next year is going to look like, so I'm going with 325. I think that's reasonable. I'd welcome a discussion with anyone about that because it's really, I don't want to drop it too much, but let's not call it level funded either. And what that means is those funds go towards our school bus contract. Without those funds, we have a gap in our school bus contract. So it's not an increase of 265,000, even though it says that. It's really a decrease from the 380,000. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Athletics, I'm pretty much level funding. I think Ron is doing well and managing things well. Knock on wood at this point. Boosters, I just level funded it. Preschool seems to be on track. Julie's doing a great job. Enrollments are really high for next year, so that looks really, really optimistic. Extended day, I put it down by 25,000. You know, it's an estimate. I'm hopeful. I think Devin's going to bring that back. I think with a return to full day school for everyone, there's going to be a need for extended day services again. Parking, you can see, is down a slight bit from what it was as high as 34.4. It's at 25. That goes towards the bus contract, not a significant hit. If you go down to the grants, the final category, you can see I did add some grants in at the bottom. These are newer grants. We're level funding all of it. There's really, at this point in the year, no way to tell whether your grants are going to go up or down. So we level fund them, and then we update them the next year to show what they truly did. So our total comp budget is increasing. Total comprehensive budget is going up by $2,695,762, which is a 5.2% increase, which is pretty much spot on with our operating budget unto itself. Any questions? I know it's a lot to give you guys, but it's a good practice for FinCom. So thank you.
Mike, do you want to talk about anything about COVID?
So I have a really comprehensive COVID sheet that I'm not going to bore you with, but what I will tell you though is that just some interesting stats for FinCom, and it actually portrays the challenges we're facing this year pretty well. So we have 6 COVID-related grants that came into Walpole this year, and most towns as well, for FY21. They total approximately $3.7 million. Of that 3.7, there's $1,470,000 in expenses like sprayers and PPE and cleaning products and all the things that we need to keep our buildings open. And then payroll, all those additional staff members that we've added, is another $690,000, totaling $2,160,000. The balance is really more on the municipal side, so we didn't spend all the money that we got. And we do have some remaining balances because we've gotten some new grants in. This is how quickly things change. We have 2 new grants that are ESSER 2 grant, which is $430,000. Learned about it within the last few weeks. And then the State COVID Prevention Fund, which is $125,000. So those new grants are $555,000. That's how quickly things change in this dynamic this year. So if you add all that up, you come up with $2,715,000 of grant funding that has been critical to us this year. There's a remaining balance of $1 million in the municipal relief portion of the grant funding. There are 2 grants I'll mention just related to food service. There's a school meal grant that we received for $13,700 to help with feeding of families that are struggling. And then Maria was able to get a food security infrastructure grant, which is not COVID related, but was $328,000, which we are buying a new van. We're buying all sorts of equipment. Really is going to help us with the future growth of our food program. So that's what I would mention about COVID and related grants.
So that's a lot. One of the things that I just was thinking about as we were listening to both of you is, I think for the last 2 years we really wanted to just make sure that every school committee member felt confident in answering these questions and explaining it if we were asked. So I think it has sharpened all of your teaching skills, but I hope people feel like it's useful. I think that, I think that it sounds to me like people feel confident about really understanding our budget and understanding all the challenges, which is important because, most people don't live in your offices. And I think what you just did does a lot to explain to the general community how carefully we're managing their money, which is, I think, a super important role of ours. But I'll just open it up. Are there questions for either Bridget or Mike about any part of the presentation or any pieces that you would like to have them be prepared to talk about more next week? Any suggestions would be appreciated as well.
Bill has his hand up.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mike, thank you. I don't know, was this your 12th budget with us now, 13th? Do you like paint it on your desk like little X's? I just, on the subject of grants, I just sent you something. MEMA is doing a grant you may have seen that is done tomorrow. It's a one-page. It's basically how much hand sanitizer do you want, how much wipes do you want, and in my day job, we just got a whole bunch of stuff, so it takes you about 2 minutes to fill out. So I just forwarded that along, and I know you're always looking at things like that. This is my 9th budget, and I will attempt to be uncharacteristically brief, but I think, as Nancy always says, we're telling a story, and to me, this is a 13-month budget, a 14-month budget. We started this January of last year. By the time it'll be like a 16-month budget by the time we get to town meeting. And I think it adequately shows the really great collaboration we have with our town. I have a friend who's on a school committee in Central Mass who's on a meeting right now with a $5 million deficit in their operating budget. And, then going through I think 4 or 5 levels of cuts this evening, right now. And I think the fact that we're not here is because we have strong professionals who dialogue with our managers downstairs at the municipal level. And I say this all the time, we all say this all the time, but I think oftentimes folks may pay attention at the very beginning of our budget dialogue, may pay attention at the end, and kind of maybe don't pay as close attention in the middle. But I think all of these steps, all of these grants you've chased, running around with measuring tape to make sure the kids can get into school. I think Mike Fisher opened every window himself going through here. Pricing out sprayers and things of that nature. All of that has kind of culminated in this budget that continues to focus on students and continues to address the needs we have, like full-day kindergarten being a right of all students, and not allowing there to be kind of a two-tiered system. We're pushing towards that goal. I'm excited about that financial management class that seems to have a lot of hunger at the high school for kids to take. I sure as hell wish I took it when I was 17, looking at the budget spreadsheet bleary-eyed this evening. So I think this is a budget that this process is different than other towns. I think a lot of parents are talking to other parents in other towns and seeing what one district is doing. I think we as colleagues look at what our colleagues are doing in other towns, and some of it's kind of a horror show. And I think I'm proud to go in FinCom on Monday. I think this is a great product. I think it puts our students first. I think it addresses a ton of needs, especially the social emotional needs. I mean, it was 5 years ago, I think, at a budget hearing one snowy January night, it was really first introduced the kind of tip of an iceberg about really seeing an influx at the lower grades in a need for professional services in the social emotional area, and we've continued to respond to that. So I think this is a great product. I think it tells a great story. I hope a couple years from now we'll be moving folks back over to revolving accounts, and they'll have healthy balances, and then we'll continue to do the things that basically made us weather how we got here. And I think it's important to underline that we didn't go back to town meeting and ask for free cash at the end. We worked closely with our delegation, which delivered and gave us a level funded state aid stream, all these little pieces. It's like Kristen loves puzzles. It's like a 500 piece puzzle that all of these things we put together to be in a really strong position. And I think I'm excited to dialogue about it. I'm excited to dialogue about it with parents. I'm excited to dialogue about it at town meeting. And I think just you all, you and your staff, Michael and Bridget and Bill, should be tremendously proud of this product. And it's an exciting thing, and it's that next step. It's really moving us where we would have liked to have been 14 months ago, beginning that process. It's that next step of those kind of core services, talking about students on our fringe, talking about a couple of these positions have very large, school-wide, level-wide reach, like the counselors, like the special ed director at the middle school level. And I think all these things are going to create positive, impactful change, and it's exciting. So there you go.
Uncharacteristically what? No.
Wayne's not here to yell at me, so I figured.
Extremely well said, Bill. Characteristically. Okay. Are there other comments, questions, missing pieces? I think you guys did a great job. Unless I'm not seeing
Sean,
it.
Nancy.
Okay, go ahead, Sean. Sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of thoughts. So I feel like there's definitely, you guys kind of split the presentation up into, where we've been and what's caused our need, and then where we're going. I'm just wondering if that's an opportunity to pause and clarify any questions that the FinCom may have before setting the stage. Because I think that really, you guys said it paints the picture of where we are and how we're kind of reacting now. And you guys did a great job on that one slide of really emphasizing the mandates and why, there is a deficit. Really showing how we, were responsible with our funds, and we were hit with some things, especially the adjustment in the funding that we were getting. That $314,000 is a significant change that we had no choice but to incur and cover. So I think they would just as we paint the picture, if there is a pause moment, to do that and kind of set the stage and then carry on and really get into what we were doing now. And Bridget, I really appreciated the explanation of the counselors. Being on the committee last year, there was a lot of uncertainty about what was being asked for, and I think you guys did a great job of articulating that last year. But I think this it takes it a step further and it really personalizes it to what a student's experience, all of our students' experiences would be with the additional services.
That's a good point, Sean. As they were presenting, what I was thinking about was we've had the benefit of hearing this for at least the fourth time. So it's, it's a lot of information, and we still are picking up new points each time we hear it. For the FinCom members, some of them will have time to thoroughly go through what they received this week. Some will have time to go through it, but not too thoroughly. And regardless, it's going to be the first time they're hearing about it. We're scheduled for both Monday and Thursday night of next week for that reason. And I think that the idea of pausing in between the chapters is a good idea, because I would anticipate, just as we had a number of questions, that they will too. And, I think that we'll use our judgment at that point. And at a certain point, you don't want to be trying to absorb complex information as you're watching the clock go past 9:30 or so. I think, it's hard for people. Everybody has something to do the next morning. So that's a good idea, to sort of keep in mind the pause and, you know, we have the opportunity to spend another night with them, and that's okay if that's what it takes to ensure that people understand. So yeah, that's a good point. Anything else? Okay, I think we're ready to roll on that one. And with the indulgence of the committee, I want to add one other small point on, well, not small, but one other point onto new business tonight. On Tuesday of this week, the governor and the commissioner came out with some news about the potential that could have a lot of changes coming forward for the end of the school year. I'd just like you, Dr. Goff, to give us, I want to preface the fact that we're not expecting you to come have some big announcement this evening. This needs to be done well, it needs to be done right. But can you just provide a little bit of insight? Thank you.
Sure, and this will go out also to families tomorrow as well, but we wanted to, Bill Hahn and I wanted to make sure that families were given this information. So this week, Commissioner Riley asked the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education to grant him the authority to change time on learning regulations in order to bring more students into the school buildings. In light of the most recent announcement, we have received several inquiries regarding this change and the potential impact to our current hybrid learning model. Please know that we are all working together to prepare for this potential change. Once the decision is announced, and DESE, the Department of Early Childhood and Secondary Education, releases this guidance, we will be able to communicate specific details in a timely manner. Please be assured that when the guidance becomes available, we will be prepared to make any transition necessary. If there are changes, and this is important, we will be sending a survey to caregivers to collect pertinent information. It'll be very, very short, but we really need this to prepare for adjustments to our learning model. We appreciate in advance your quick response to this survey. Finally, DESE has been very clear that all full remote learning management system students will be able to remain in the full remote option until the end of the year. We will continue to communicate any information as it becomes available. So just know we've been pivoting all along and all year, and we will continue to do so. So we have to wait, for the board's vote to come out, and once the commissioner gives us the information, we'll be ready when we need to be ready for whatever comes our way.
Great, thank you. And I would just add that it seems like one of the reasons we've been successful to this point is because of the thoughtful approach that you've taken. And I think that the community does appreciate that. And of course, everybody would like to have a crystal ball, but guess what? No one has one. So.
Correct. And to throw, like I said, just to what we have been saying, to throw a date out or a day, just becomes, it's disingenuous, and it just yields disappointment. So once we know, we will act, and we'll be ready. We've been pivoting and doing things all year like this. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments related to that? If not, let's finish up the old business. There were 3 policies that we're seeing for the second time, as is our practice. We have a first reading, and this is the second reading for a policy on homeless students, enrollment rights, and services. Dr. Goff, is there anything that you want to add to any of these, or should I just ask for a motion to approve them or discuss them?
No, Dr. Quilley said that these, second reading it's good to go. So it was just a vote to approve by the school committee.
Okay, I need a motion, and then we can discuss if there are any questions, but I need a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion about the homeless student policy, and the motion was made by Bill, seconded by Kristen. Are there any questions or comments?
I have a question. Nancy,
Yeah,
do we need to vote separately on each policy? Or can we vote to approve all three at the same time?
I believe we need to do all three separately,
Okay.
but I would defer to anybody who knows for sure. All right, then let's go.
I would concur, yeah.
I think we have to do separately. Is that what you're saying, Bill?
Yeah, I concur.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion for the homeless policy, updated version of it. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Myself, Nancy, yes. So the vote is 6-0-0. Okay, the next one is educational opportunities for children in foster care. I need a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve policy jfabf for educational opportunities for children in foster care.
Okay, I have a motion by Kristen. I just need a second.
Second.
Second by Sean. Any discussion about this policy? If not, I'll poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes. 6-0-0. And then the third policy is about physical restraints. I need a motion, please.
Sure, I'll make a motion to approve policy JKAA, physical restraint of students. Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Kristen, a second by Jen. Any discussion? If not, I'll poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes. 6-0-0. Okay. That then gets us to the middle school building project. Yesterday was almost like New Year's Day for the school building project, I believe, because we made a major milestone of submitting the PSR to the state. So, Dr. Goff, I'll start it with you.
Yeah, just to update, I know Mark couldn't be here. So yeah, the PSR is the preferred schematic report. So that's looking at, I don't want people to think that it's the actual like details design, the actual design that comes later. It's really looking at, the footprint of the building, the layout of the building, looking at where things are going to go. And the next step in that will be the schematic design. And that goes, I think, if I'm correct, Mike, August, and then after that will be in October for a town meeting and ballot vote.
Sounds good. Bill Hahn or Mike Frisha, anything you want to add to that?
I like New Year's as the analogy.
Well, it's the beginning of another chapter. It's a tremendous amount of work has gotten into it so far, and it's really a celebration, I think, to be at this point, because the work started a good number of years ago, and at that point it was unclear whether we would get into the program where the state financially supports the district, and when all the work was sort of lined up for us, and then we had to deal with a very, very disruptive school year on top of having a new upper administration. It wasn't clear to me that we were going to hit the timelines without some real I thought we were going to have to pause and reset and adjust the timeline. And you guys did a tremendous amount of work to get us to this point. So, Yahoo!
Yeah.
I think
it's a lot of years in the making. You know, it is, like you said, Nancy. It's another chapter. I mean, a lot of hard work has been done throughout the years, and we still have work to do. And I think that it's important we just, as a group, make sure that we keep the communication up, continue to answer questions from the community. We'll continue to have multiple community forums. Our team, our project team, Compass, and our architects, Tape, we'll be holding those as well, and we'll be there to help answer questions, and to just go on the project website, the middle school building project website, and people will be able to see the reports and the drawings and the visuals, which I think will really help, and it brings it to life, which is really nice. I mean, reading the 80-page education plan might be one thing, but once you see it, it's another.
A lot of love and tears probably went into that 85-page education plan. But that's a good point, because this next chapter is about making sure we effectively explain this project to the community. And some of us are on the building committee, but some of the school committee members who are not are really talented when it comes to communication and websites and all sorts of media. So I think we all should take a look at the website in the next week or so, and send in any constructive criticism that you have, any ideas for how to improve the communication, or just maybe we need to start promoting it more among our circles of people. I also think we should be thinking about a presentation at town meeting this spring, because it will come up for a vote at town meeting in the fall, but it's always good to give people time to think. This is a major investment for the town. It's a major, exciting opportunity for the school district and for the students. And we want to do it justice in terms of explaining it and why it is a good investment. So those are some of the next steps. Anything else? Okay, then that gets us to subcommittee activity. Sean, did you want to talk about the, I think it's a grant proposal that you saw?
No, so what I passed along was actual legislation that's been delivered at the State House around student data privacy. Bill HD 3725. I think it's worthwhile to at least take a look at. So kind of the long story short is, a few years ago, school districts really took on the need to keep students and staff data safe and secure. And this really came down to how our software vendors were mishandling data and not withholding to guidelines, but also, there's a difference between federal guidelines and, this legislation would fill in, a gap in state guidance. So schools kind of took this on, and in that there was a few alliances that formed to create standards, and tech really did a great job in developing a privacy policy that many districts in the state and now just recently nationally adopted. So the bill will kind of give legislation within the state of Massachusetts to put in alongside the hard work that schools and districts have in really taking the leadership. It's an area where the state leadership has been lacking, and the schools have really stepped in, and it's nice to see that something is happening for it. I think a lot of it is, goes alongside what schools are doing now, so it wouldn't necessarily be an onerous lift on schools, but it's definitely, at least worth a read through. So I wanted to share that.
Well, thank you.
Stuff.
Bill, go ahead.
No, I said good stuff. I think these are
okay.
something that's been on our radar for a while now, so it was good. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and I think we can also learn from the people at Tech to see if it sounds like it probably complements the work that they've been doing too. Are there any other subcommittee activities to report? Okay, if not, then that gets us to citizens' comments. There have been a few people who have been on the line. Are there any citizens interested in commenting, Mr. Hahn?
Nancy, there is one citizen in the attendee space. If that person would like to talk, we just need an indication for them to raise their hand or make a comment. Either one, I can turn on their mic or move them into the attendee session. It's hard to tell whether they're here to comment or just to.
Sure.
So we'll wait a minute like we did last time.
I've been watching, and it is great to know that this one of the benefits of COVID is that people can attend our meetings without having to get out of their homes, and we do appreciate it. So, if
I'm still seeing no comment in the pattern, no raising the hands. I think, and if I see it before we end the meeting, I'll let you know.
that sounds perfect. And thank you for your attendance, regardless of whether you wanted to comment or not. Okay, that gets us to approvals of warrants, donations, and minutes. Sean?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to approve the following expense warrants for the amounts listed in your packets. Those warrants are 221033, 221034, and 221035.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sean, a second, I think by Kristen, was that right? Carrie, sorry. Okay, I will poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy? Yes, 600.
And I would also like to make a motion to approve the following payroll warrant for the amount listed in your packet. It is 2132PA.
Second.
Again, we have a motion by Sean, a second by Carrie. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes. 600. Okay. We have donations.
Yep, I can do that. I will make a motion to approve the following gifts to Johnson Middle School from various donors, fundraiser for Grayson Beauregard, a JMS student, in the amount of $1,075.
Second.
We have a motion by Carrie, a second by Kristen, and that's awesome. That's an awesome thing to be working towards as a school community. Any further discussion? Okay, I will poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes. So gratefully accepted. Thank you, 600. And minutes. Somebody want to take those, please?
Go through you, Madam Chair, make a motion to approve the February 11th, 2021 school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
We have a motion by Bill, a second by Kristen. I'll poll the committee. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
And Nancy, yes. 600. And I think that does it. Somebody
Motion to adjourn.
Very good.
Second.
We have a motion by Jen, a second by Carrie. I'll speed dial this one. Kristen?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Jen?
Yes.
Bill?
Yes.
Nancy? Yes. Thank you very much. And we will be at FinCom next week for anybody who's looking for entertainment on Monday night. Thanks for attending,
Thank you.
everybody. Thanks for
Thanks,
listening.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.